I'm just going to get straight to it. So please just join in, talk back to me. I want to call this live. Everyone has a choice to choose between two wells. And if you know the word, then you know I'm talking about John chapter 4. But I need to share this. I wrote down so much and I need to get this out. So I'm just going to go for it. God was telling me that the truth is that everyone is like this woman at the well. And it feels like for many of us that life is on repeat. And, we get caught in the cycle. And God was showing me that so many of us are in bad habits. He just doesn't want that for us. And this woman at the well had to keep going to the same place with the same fear, with the same shame, with the same exhaustion. And she was carrying more than just her water pot to go to that well. She was going to the same place at a certain hour because she knew that if she went at that time, she would be alone, that no one would see her. But this is where God started speaking to me, and he was like, there are so many of my children like this woman at the well, believe it or not. And God was telling me, he knew this woman at the well. He knew all about her, and he went there to meet her because God knows what you are carrying. He knows where you are going. God sees you. Even though God is unseen by us, God sees you clearly right where you are. This woman thought she was on her own, but Jesus, the Word made flesh, was already there waiting for her at the well. In John chapter 4, verse 6, Jesus sat on the well, and this ministered to me, thinking that the answer is already waiting for your arrival. The Spirit is above the natural. The source is above the resource. Jesus won't move or change his mind about you. He is waiting on you to come. Jesus could have remained in Jerusalem in this story, but he could have stayed with the 99, but he left them to pursue the one, and you are that one that he will pursue. God will meet you at the place where you have need. Jesus went to the place where there was need of water because, the thing about this whole story is that thirst doesn't discriminate. We are all beings that have a thirst. We will all get thirsty at some point. Thirst doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter how much you earn or who you are or where you came from. You will get thirsty. And that's the beauty of this story. Jesus knows where you're headed with your need. God's Spirit is willing. And Jesus was willing to go to the place other people wouldn't go. In verse 4, he said, he must needs go through Samaria. Jesus will go to the place that other people will avoid. And I just love that. Jesus showed us that loving your neighbor isn't about your neighborhood, it is about need. When people read that woman at the well story, they highlight this woman never had a name. We don't know her name. But the scripture does tell us that she was a Samaritan woman. And this is huge in the context of when this encounter happened, because Jesus went to the one that the Jews of that day would have rejected. Jesus went to the one that society outcasted. Jesus went to the Samaritan woman. It was his kingdom coming. It was his kingdom being done. It was kingdom creating relationships and relationship through revelation as well. And kingdom was drawing people to himself. The spirit of the living God creates unity. And we see that we are united by our need. We are united by our need for water. Need doesn't divide us, it unites us. That's what God was telling me. And the well was a supply. I grew up in India, and in India, if we didn't have access to a well, we couldn't live. We moved wherever the demand could be supplied. And just like the Samaritan woman who went from the mountain, a high place, to the well, she came down. And humility will go from a high place to a low place to meet a need. Verse 20 of John 4 says, fathers worshipped in the mountain, but God showed up at the well. John chapter 4 teaches us that God is spirit and he is not bound. Verse 24 says, God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. This woman was learning about Jesus. Amen. And truth was being spoken not only from her lips, but from his lips too. There was communication, worshiping in truth. This woman became honest. she became humble, and she became hungry for more of God. And this is what God was telling me. This is our choice. We have a choice to choose between two wells. Just like this woman, we can encounter Jesus right where we are. Okay, it's no longer about names or labels or locations or society. It's about you and God and what he says about you. You know, when you become honest, humble, and hungry for more, you will hear him. You know, the natural knows when the natural is thirsty for water. You know when you want water. But God knows when you have a need for spiritual water. And something happens, something powerful happens to the person that recognizes their spiritual thirst. In verse 7, Jesus said, "Give me to drink." And I wonder, you know, what will you give him? You know, can you hand Jesus your need? You know, Jesus said, "Give me it." Not because Jesus was in demand, but because he is the supply. You know, Jesus is the satisfier of our need. You know, there's water that can sustain the body, but then there's living water that can sustain the soul. And what would happen if we stopped running to what can only temporarily satiate us and started going to the God who can eternally satisfy us? You know, God's Spirit is available all the time. He is the cup that will never run dry. So my question is, and what God was telling me is, which well are you going to drink from? You know, wherever you are, there is natural water available and there is spiritual water available. They are both present right here, right now, and you get to choose who supplies you. Just like the woman at the well, we are confronted with a natural and a spiritual well. So which one are we going to respond to? Which one are we thirsting for? You know, where do you go? Is it Jacob's well or Jesus? You know, Jacob's well was a place of tradition. It was a place of traditional supply. You know, this woman learned that this was a familiar place to get a need met. And that might be something that we all have in our lives. You know, verse 12 says, Jacob gave us this well. You know, he drank from it. His children drank from it. The cattle drank from it. But this woman learned to lean on the same supply. That's not what God is about, you know. God is a generational God. It doesn't matter what your family used to go to. It doesn't matter where they used to get their needs met. It doesn't matter, because God can break the cycle through you. You know, he can break bad habits through you. He can meet you where you are and do a new thing through you. You know, I love the fact that in this story, God shows us he can use anybody and he can bless anybody. Psalm 34 verse 8 says, "Taste and see that the Lord is good." The more you let God satisfy you, the more you will see him. You won't just know his hand, guys. You will know his heart. Verse 16 of John chapter 4 says, "Go call thy husband." And the Spirit of God was speaking to this woman at the well, and she answered in truth. You see, this is what I want to say about this story. Conviction doesn't come for condemnation, but for confession. I'll say that again. You know, when truth was speaking to her, conviction doesn't come to, you know, condemn us. It comes to help us confess. You know, Jesus wants communication with you. There is no worship if there is no truth. Okay? You know, this conversation was setting her free, and we can't hold back from the God who already knows everything about us. You know, and yet nothing that God knows about you or me or anyone else will stop him wanting to talk to you. That's what I love about this story. God is not religion. He is the creator. He is your maker. He wants communication with you. He wants relationship with you. In John chapter 4 verse 18, Jesus says, "In that saidest thou truly." You know, when you're looking at living water, which is pure, which is true, you will see yourself more clearly. You will see yourself so clear that there will be no confusion. There will just be clarity about everything, anything. You know, verse 19 says, "I perceive that thou art a prophet." You see, this Samaritan woman was realizing that while the word was being revealed to her, she was being revealed by the word. She was being revealed by the word. The word sanctifies. The word cleanses us. It transforms us from who we are to who we can become. because we're being washed by the living water, and it helps us see God and ourselves clearer. When you drink the living water, you won't conform. You have to transform, because water works from the inside out. It is a renewal that won't just change your substance, it will change your mind. The word is active. God is a supply for the dependency that he created. God is the supply for the dependency he created. We go to who we know. And the reason so many people don't go to God is because they don't know him. But God says, whosoever drinks of this water, whosoever. He's not discriminating. He's not partial. He's not looking at your past and saying you're not worthy. He's saying whosoever drinks of this water, because God knows you. Even if you think, I don't know God, I don't know how to do this, God knows you. The Spirit of God is willing. He is ready to meet you. Just as this woman thought she was going to a place all by herself. And you think that you are too. You think that wherever you run to, you're going by yourself. No one's seeing me. No one knows about where I'm headed. But Jesus was already there. And that's the thing about God. He is already going to where you are going. He's already there, and he is here for you too. He's a present help. Just like this woman, we might be concerned at times about what everybody else thinks, but Jesus is concerned about you. It's time, guys. It's time to connect with him. It's time to communicate with him. It is time to confess to him. And I wonder, what is our confession today? What would come out of the overflow in the safety of worshiping him in truth? Jacob's well, the Jacob's well of that day and the Jacob's well of today has an expiration date. That's what I want to say. These wells will run dry. God was telling me this morning, I am everlasting to everlasting. My living water won't end. From Genesis to Revelation, the water was overflowing. From Genesis to Revelation, from the beginning to the end, there was water. There is water that can supply and satisfy. John chapter 4 verse 28 says, the woman left her water pot and went into the city. This woman came to get water, but she left with a word. This woman dropped what she thought she needed to go and get what God had for her instead. Just like this woman, Jesus will meet you where you are, but he won't keep you there. God's speaking to me, and he said, once you get the source, you will forsake resources. That thing just won't be good enough for you anymore. It won't feel that same way anymore. You won't feel attracted to that thing anymore. You won't want to go to that place anymore. You won't turn to those dry places anymore, because you'll know you've had the better experience. You've got a source that doesn't run out. Verse 29 says, this woman said, a man told me all things. Once you know who God is, you can't contain it. You will share it. You can't keep that to yourself. He is that good. The living water will change you, and you will never thirst again. When we don't lean on our own understanding and we do acknowledge God in all our ways, he won't just change the person, he will change your path. A lot of us, like I said at the beginning of this, are in cycles. We feel like life is on repeat. We feel like, how are we going to get out of this little mousetrap that we're in? But if you acknowledge God, if you're honest, humble, and hungry for God, he will satisfy you. He will meet you. He won't be in the mountain where other people are. He will be at the well where you're headed on your own. This is the great thing about being satisfied by Jesus. You won't beg for what you used to think you needed. You won't run back to the things you thought you wanted. You won't follow tradition. You will break that off. And you won't fear lack, because you'll know God is your source. You won't have to pretend anymore. You won't have to hide anymore. And guys, as you know, I'm just doing this in my lunch break. I haven't got that much time to get into this even deeper, but I need to share this word, that you will always have a choice to choose between two wells. Where the Spirit of God is, it liberates, it guides you in all truth. Matthew 7 verse 7 says, if you ask, seek, and knock, he will answer. There is nothing you need that God can't give. There is nothing you need that God can't give. So I go back to the original point of this message, at every moment, guys. Don't believe the lie. You always have a choice to choose between two wells, the natural well and the spiritual well. And you can be confronted by both, just like this woman, at any given moment. I want to close out this live by talking about John chapter 4, verse 15. The woman said, "Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw." Don't you just get tired of going to the same thing, having the same argument, running on the same kind of fuel that always runs out? I don't want to go to the same place to draw water anymore. I'm done with that. I don't want to thirst. I don't want to go back to that. That was toxic. That was painful. I don't want to be like this. I hate that about myself. God says, "Come." And this woman says, "Give me this water." That's the thing. Ask, seek, and knock, and it will be given to you. When you choose living water, you will find abundant life. Not just water for your body, but water for your soul. Guys, you are so much more than your flesh. You are so much more than your circumstance. You are so much more than your past. You are so much more than what your family said about you. You are so much more than what your ex said about you. You are none of those things. You are what God says about you. And God says, "I can give you something that will satisfy you in a way that no other person can." And here's the best part. It just keeps getting better and better, this revelation that God gave to me. Jesus isn't waiting at a well anymore. You don't have to go to a particular place to encounter Jesus. He is right where you are. You've got everything he needs right where you are. I'm talking like right where you are. Like even if it's in the shower, even if when it's driving, if you're going for a walk, in the middle of a conversation, he is there. It's so important that you realize that he is without walls. He cannot be contained. In this quarantine, I believe this is why God has been speaking this word to me. Hey guys, mwah, thank you so much for coming on. This is why I think God was speaking this word to me, because in the quarantine, it's like, Jess, they don't need to come to a building. I know we hear this a lot, that, God isn't in the building, he's in us. But that's a revelation. That is an opportunity. That is where you can say, "God, you're with me. You are Emmanuel. I'm not limited. I don't need to be contained. I don't need to go to a location or an address to meet you. I don't need to go up to the mountain because you're at the well. You're where I am." I feel this thing, guys. God is spirit. You can draw as near to him as you want to. All he desires is you, not the bricks, not the mortar, nothing. He just wants you. You are the object of his affection. I know that for me, even personally, like my testimony, the struggle is real, right? The struggle is real. The anger is real. The resentment is real. The words you get called are real. The hate that you experience is real. The offense that you feel is real. But so is the solution. The solution is so real. Just like this woman at the well, you don't need a water pot. You just need the word. You just need the word. You can worship him without walls. You can encounter him constantly. The Father is seeking those who will worship him in spirit and in truth. God's plan and purpose for your life will always be connected to himself. So guys, I just want to close out there. God's purpose for your life, God's pathway for your life, it is connected to the source. It is connected to the overflow. And he sees you as so valuable. You don't need to carry the water pot. He knows what you're carrying in your hand. He knows where you're going to meet a need. He knows, and he's already waiting there. So I just want you to get this revelation that once you get the source, you can forsake resources. Okay, some of you just haven't tasted and seen how good he is. But once you have, I'm telling you, everything will change from the inside out. Everything will change. You don't have to settle. Your newness is in his mercy. Your satisfaction is in his presence. Your joy is in his fullness. You have access to everything that he is. He's not going to withhold himself. He's not going to withhold anything good. He's going to fill you. The scripture says, if someone asks me for bread, am I going to give him a stone? Jesus isn't going to play you like that. Jesus is going to give you exactly what you need. Just like we said earlier, ask, seek, and knock, and it shall be given. He does not withhold anything good from you guys. So I just hope that encourages you. Whatever you're needing today, wherever you're headed today, whoever it is that's on your mind today, whatever hurt you're carrying, whatever burden you're feeling, you have the choice to choose between two wells right where you are. So guys, I just hope that blesses you. I know that was a short live, but yeah, it's powerful. You know, I pray for people that are only listening to their natural thirst but not their spiritual thirst. I pray for people that want water but don't want the word yet. I'm praying that God would just pierce our hearts and meet people in that place. Meet us in that place, Lord. You know, I love the fact that God will give you what you need, and you may not have even ever known you needed it. God will answer your prayers in ways that you don't even know you need them. You know, the word says that he knows what you need before you ask. So take advantage of the spiritual well from Genesis to Revelation. He is God. He is overflowing. He is ever present. He is everlasting to everlasting. And he is Emmanuel. So right where you are, guys, enjoy Jesus. Choose the well that won't run dry. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to record this, and so I will have it on my Facebook page for anyone that wants to listen to this again or share it. I know it was just a quick, half-hour live, but thank you for joining me. And if you have any questions or anyone that's on your mind that you want to pray about together, please just message me. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. God bless you. Have an awesome day. And I just pray that this message touches you today. God loves you. All right. God bless you guys. Bye for now.